So if you have been on social media, you have probably seen that more and more producers innovating with their drums, doing something different than the usual bounce. Because experimenting and stepping out of your comfort zone is crucial if you want to build your own sound. Sure, the usual trap drums work for placements, but if you're chasing your own sound, then I hope this video today motivates you about it. And that's also why I make sound kits in the first place. So you can go from drums sounding like this to something like this. So let's jump right into it. Alright, first I dragged in this loop from me and Becco's upcoming paint kit. The sample was also made with the paint analog lab bank, and here's how it sounds. And what I did for the beat drop is kind of like a stutter effect. I will get into the drums and melody right now in a second, but the most important thing is to make these kinda pauses right here. Even if it's just a tiny bit, it makes a huge difference. That's also what it is for the open head and for the 808s. Just for it to have like a stutter effect, because this is how it would sound if it just aligned all the way up. It makes a difference if I just do this. The same for this as well. It just hits even harder to make a little pause in there. And yet this was the stem vocal from the sample. Sounds like this. Really ambient. I think Becco got this vocal from Splice, but the rest of the melody was made with the kit. And these are the chords that you can hear at the beginning. And the chords for this was the preset called Lovely from the Paint Bank. And it sounds like this. So yeah, it sounds super ambient, has a rich synth character to it. And let's get down to the drums. These reverse effects also adds like a build up to the next drop. It's just a melody reversed, and also like this distance right here. It's super important. It makes a huge difference for me. And all of the drums I think were from Steven Schaefer and from Max Shooter's Analog Tools 4. Super unique drums, and I think just a few sounds from Eternal Volume 3. The first thing that I started was this 808. And yeah, as said, I put this 808 to stretch and with a tiny bit less attack, because there was a kick at the beginning that I didn't like that much. And I did like the octave thing right here, made sure that there's this little distance. And it's just all about bounce, and that's why I found these pockets right here. This is like a quick glide. So this was pitched up an octave, and this was just glide down. And make sure this one is no volume. So it starts at 0 volume and goes up to 100. If I would make this volume up, then it has like a kick at the beginning. Like you would hear this 808 and then glide down. I wanted this to be like 0. Like this. And the reason why this 808 and the open head hits so hard, I think, is because of the drum bass. I put everything on the drum bass and put fusion on it. Fusion is a multi-distortion. So what that means is you can adjust the frequencies right here and make a different type of distortion on each frequency range. So for example, this one is from 0 to 200 and so on. This is how it would sound with no fusion on it. And it hits so hard because the open heads and the hi-hats and the 808 goes to the same channel with this fusion on it. That's why if it goes to the same channel, it distorts and it hits even harder that way. If you would put this fusion on each channel separated, it wouldn't hit that hard. It has to go to the same channel, so it has the same input to the same distortion effects, and then the output is the clipping effect that you can hear. Like the distortion clipping effect. It hits so hard. And yeah, all of the drums from the Stephen Schaefer's kit, Unlock Tools 4, and a bit of Eternal Volume 3. I think the first thing that I started was this 808 kick and followed from the perks. It's important to find these pockets for like unique drums. For example, this tom right here. It sounds like this. And right here. So it's important to find these pockets for the drums. Also, this perk right here is a great example for it. It adds like a unique touch to the bounce. And with the drums, it's like these little things that if you remove it, the listener will notice. But at the first sight, the listener won't really hear like the hi-hats, for example, or like these little perks. But it adds so much bounce to it that it's still really important. Let's say I would do like the same melody again. I would delete this all. This was the vocal right here. I would do something like cut it right here and extend this to the beginning again. Make this one with a little pause like this. And then cut the whole vocal when the clap comes in. I will put this to the beginning like this. Maybe do something like this. You can also do this with Growspeed or Shaperbox. Let's try this even right now. So yeah, for these kind of beats, Growspeed is really your secret weapon, but I did it manually. But I think the best way to do these kind of beats is with Fruity Slicer or like any sampler that you got, like Serato samples, for example. So you can manually have these kind of stutters effect and maybe try different patterns. And yeah, after that I dragged in like a phrase from the color phrases section. Sounds like this. And after that I kind of wanted to let the beat breathe from the drums. So I cut the 808s out and maybe the kick. And I think except for the drum bass having a fusion on it, I had nothing in all of the channels, except for like a tiny bit of EQ right here. Except for the kick, it had like a side EQ on the low end, because this kick has too much stereo on the low end. And what that means is, I mean, you can hear it. And then with the EQ, it sounds like this. So on the low end, more mono. It took up too much presence in the low end in terms of the stereo field, and you don't really want stereo on the low end usually. So I cut it out with the side EQ. This EQ doesn't take the low end away. It's a low end in the stereo field, which is a huge difference because the frequencies stay the same, but it's just making about more mono. If you ask why I didn't just make the kick mono, it's because I still wanted the character stereo in the high end. This is how the kick would sound if it was mono. That's why I did it kind of like a bit less mono and only did the low end more mono. Alright, now some last takeaways as the most important parts that you can take away from this beat. So when you make a beat, it's really important to not always stick with a formula. Of course, that can work every time, but what I mean is step out of your comfort zone and try things that you don't usually try. For example, these drums. These drum sounds are all pretty unique. And then I decided to go with a classic hard-hitting 808 sound, which is not a spins, with an open head to get that trap feeling in there. There's a ton of 808s out there that can sound like this with the right tools, with Fusion on the mix, it just hits harder. It's a preset called Dust and Dirt, and you can take off 10% from it with the code viom 10. And I would just recommend it to you. It's a great tool, and everything just comes together right. So it's just all about experimenting, step out of your comfort zone. Don't go for the same things that you can make every time. And the really underrated thing is these little pauses right here. Tiny little pauses that can make a huge impact. And I did the same with the open head. I did it on hold, so it hits like this. And without fusion. And for this beat, I was kind of inspired by a reel from Steven Schaefer. I can blend it in. So it's also a lot about inspiration and finding inspiration, taking the parts that you like from the beat that you was inspired from and mixing it with different kind of stuff. And that's your own signature sound, you know? If you try to copy something, you don't just copy it, you make your own stuff. You make your own unique stuff. And that's the beauty of music, honestly. Every time that you go like, I want to make something like this, you go and do something a bit different. And that difference is your sound, you know? And yeah, if you want the sample along with some other ones right here, you can get them completely for free with the link below. It's a link to my waiting list, and when you sign up, you get these samples that we made with Paint. Paint is the expansion to the Fantasia series, and we wanted to make sure that this kit is really unique and the highest quality analog lab band can get. I mean, I can show some presets. So yeah, super unique, and it drops on the 27th July. Be on the lookout for that, and see you on the next one.